2026 could be a pivotal year for U.S. immigration enforcement, and this time the shifts are happening faster, more rigidly, and with much less leniency. Removal cases are climbing, visa evaluations are accelerating, and processes that once required years are now completing within months, sometimes even weeks. Beyond the political narratives, significant developments are already in motion. Some countries are attracting heightened attention, some infractions are being pursued more aggressively, and for many immigrants, one minor mistake, even from the distant past, can unexpectedly put everything at stake. In this video, we're reviewing 7 Asian countries whose citizens seem to be under the greatest deportation pressure in 2026, not through guesswork, but through enforcement patterns and policy indicators. As we walk through this list, a clear trend will begin to emerge, and by the time we reach number 1, the extent of enforcement might truly surprise you off guard. Let's begin now. Number 7. Bangladesh. In 2026, Bangladeshi immigrants are encountering some of the harshest deportation enforcement witnessed in recent years. Across the United States, thousands of cases are being examined, revisited, or advanced more rapidly. And for many families, the danger of removal is no longer merely a concern. It's happening right now. So why is Bangladesh attracting heightened attention? One primary reason is visa overstays. Immigration data shows a growing number of Bangladeshi nationals arriving in the U.S. on student or tourist visas and remaining after those visas lapse. Under the existing enforcement strategy, overstays are no longer considered as low-priority infractions. They are now among the fastest ways to initiate removal proceedings, even for people who have resided quietly in the U.S. for many years. Unauthorized employment is another significant element. Many Bangladeshi immigrants work in sectors like construction, restaurants, retail, and delivery services, often without proper work permits. As workplace inspections and enforcement operations expand in 2026, workers discovered without valid permits are being detained alongside employers receiving penalties. One audit can change everything immediately. Document verification concerns are also heightening pressure. U.S. immigration authorities have observed a rise in applications containing inconsistent or unconfirmable records. Even when misrepresentation is not intentional, incomplete paperwork or inaccurate information can prompt concerns, and once review begins, it rarely stays confined to just one matter. Family-based immigration infractions also count. Officials are thoroughly reviewing sponsorships and marriages to verify they satisfy legal standards. When discrepancies are uncovered, even years afterward, both petitioners and sponsors can encounter serious consequences, including deportation orders. The outcome is a perfect storm. In 2026, Bangladeshi immigrants without solid legal status, expired visas, or work permits are encountering the greatest deportation risks the community has experienced in a very long time. For many, the rules didn't just shift, the level of tolerance shifted too. And before we proceed to the next country, take a second and comment where you're watching from. We always appreciate seeing how worldwide this conversation truly is. Number 6. Nepal. In 2026, Nepali immigrants are encountering heightened deportation pressure as U.S. enforcement agencies target patterns that have quietly grown over the past several years. What once slipped through administrative cracks is now being identified, examined, and addressed upon swiftly. One of the primary catalysts is visa overstays. A notable number of Nepali nationals entered the U.S. on temporary visas and never departed. Under the existing enforcement framework, overstays are no longer regarded as minor procedural issues. They are handled as direct grounds for removal, especially when paired with other concerns in a person's background. Another rising issue involves visa fraud linked to unauthorized consultants. Investigations have revealed cases where individuals were persuaded to file applications containing misleading information or exaggerated claims, often with assurances of pathways to permanent status that never truly materialized. When those applications are examined years afterward, the repercussions land entirely on the applicant, not the consultant who disappeared. Unauthorized employment is also under heavy scrutiny. Many Nepali immigrants work in restaurants, cleaning companies, caregiving, and construction. As workplace enforcement expands, people without proper work permits are being discovered during standard inspections, sometimes resulting in immediate detention and the initiation of deportation proceedings. There's also the matter of document verification. Nepal's limited digital record infrastructure makes background checks more challenging for U.S. authorities. When records cannot be readily verified, applications encounter delays, rejections, or deeper examination, even when no misconduct is intended. In today's environment, ambiguity by itself can be sufficient to prompt enforcement action. All of this contributes to a dramatic increase in risk. In 2026, Nepali immigrants who overstayed visas, worked without permits, or relied on flawed applications now encounter much greater chances of removal than in previous years. For many households, stability that once seemed reliable now feels progressively fragile. And next, the circumstances become even more complicated. Let's proceed on to number 5. Number 5, Myanmar. In 2026, Myanmar nationals are encountering an especially challenging situation. Even as the country continues to experience political turmoil and humanitarian suffering, deportation enforcement in the United States is progressing forward with far less accommodation than many anticipated. A primary reason is the intensified examination of asylum cases. Over the past several years, thousands of people from Myanmar entered the U.S. pursuing protection from violence, persecution, and instability. While some were approved, many applications were rejected or left unresolved. Under the existing enforcement strategy, rejected or expired asylum cases are no longer remaining untouched. They are being revisited and deportation orders are being generated. Humanitarian protections are also contracting. Policies that once permitted broader discretion are now being restricted, decreasing the number of people who qualify for reprieve. This means individuals who thought their cases were solid are abruptly discovering themselves with fewer options despite conditions back home remaining perilous. Visa infractions add another layer of risk. Some Myanmar nationals entered on student or visitor visas and stayed beyond their authorized time. Others breached the terms of their temporary status by working without permits. In 2026, these infractions are being enforced forcefully with little space for previous leniency. Background verification presents additional obstacles. Due to instability and inconsistent record keeping in Myanmar, U.S. authorities often have difficulty confirming personal histories. When verification is difficult, applications encounter higher rejection rates, and uncertainty often operates against the applicant, not in their support. The outcome is a troubling contradiction. In 2026, Myanmar nationals without approved asylum, valid visas, or proper documentation are encountering some of the greatest deportation risks, even while humanitarian concerns persist. For families who thought safety in the U.S. was lasting, the ground is moving quickly. And as you'll notice next, the pressure doesn't stop there. Let's proceed on to next country. Number 4, Cambodia. In 2026, Cambodian immigrants are encountering a surge of deportation enforcement that extends far beyond recent arrivals. For many, the danger is not linked to new infractions. It is linked to choices made many years ago. One of the primary catalysts is criminal-based removals. U.S. immigration policy now places renewed emphasis on deporting non-citizens with criminal histories, even for offenses that are minor or far in the past. Many Cambodian immigrants came to the United States as refugees years earlier, but never finished the naturalization process. That single omission is now proving expensive. A conviction from years before, even one that resulted in probation, can initiate removal proceedings today. Another significant element is increased cooperation between the U.S. and Cambodian governments. Repatriation agreements have made it simpler for deportations to proceed ahead, eliminating barriers that once postponed or prevented removals. Cases that sat unresolved for years are now being handled quickly, often surprising families off guard. Visa infractions also remain a problem. Some Cambodian nationals arrived on temporary visas and overstayed. Others violated work permit rules or took employment without proper paperwork. With expanded workplace enforcement and community-based operations, these cases are being discovered at a much greater rate in 2026. Gang-related enforcement has escalated as well. Officials are forcefully targeting individuals with alleged gang connections, and even unsubstantiated associations can lead to intense scrutiny. Old files are being reviewed again, and prior interaction with law enforcement can be sufficient to reactivate cases that were once deemed closed. The impact is profoundly personal. Long-term residents are being torn from their families. Parents who constructed lives in the U.S. are confronting removal to a country they scarcely recall. Children born in America are witnessing stability vanish almost overnight. In 2026, Cambodian immigrants who are not U.S. citizens, especially those with any criminal background or unresolved immigration matters, face some of the greatest deportation risks in decades. What once appeared settled is now being reconsidered, and for many, time has not diminished vulnerability. Up next, the stakes climb even higher. Let's proceed to the next country. Number 3, Pakistan. In 2026, Pakistani immigrants are encountering some of the toughest deportation pressure witnessed in years, fueled by a combination of security screening, visa enforcement, and heightened scrutiny that provides very little margin for errors. National security concerns rest at the core of this shift. Under the existing enforcement structure, Pakistani nationals are subject to deeper background checks and more regular case evaluations. Any discrepancy, even something as minor as outdated information or absent records, can initiate removal proceedings. Cases that once progressed slowly are now being resolved quickly, often with severe consequences. Visa overstays are another significant element. Data reveals a steady growth in Pakistani nationals who arrived in the U.S. on student, tourist, or work visas and stayed after expiration. In 2026, overstays are classified as priority infractions. Once identified, individuals can encounter detention and deportation, even if they possess no criminal background and have resided in the U.S. for years. Unauthorized employment is also attracting forceful enforcement. Many Pakistani immigrants work in restaurants, retail shops, gas stations, and service sectors. And with workplace audits and unannounced inspections multiplying, individuals found laboring without valid permits are being channeled directly into removal proceedings, sometimes without advance notice. Document verification concerns introduce further risk. U.S. immigration authorities have discovered cases containing inconsistent or unconfirmable paperwork, particularly from areas where record keeping is limited, even when misrepresentation is not intentional. Suspicion alone can result in refused applications, canceled visas, or deportation orders. Family-based immigration cases are under scrutiny as well. Officials are thoroughly inspecting sponsorships and marriages for adherence. When infractions are detected, even years afterward, both sponsors and petitioners can encounter serious legal repercussions. The combined impact is pervasive anxiety and uncertainty. Students worry about abrupt visa terminations. Workers fear workplace enforcement. Families brace for separation. In 2026, Pakistani immigrants without solid legal standing, active visas, or proper documentation are among the most exposed Asian communities confronting removal under current enforcement directives. And next, the situation grows even more complicated and emotionally intense. Let's proceed on to next country. Number 2, Afghanistan. In 2026, Afghan nationals are encountering one of the most emotionally intense and contentious deportation situations in the United States. Despite continuing instability, violence, and humanitarian concerns back home, enforcement measures are intensifying. And for many households, protection that once appeared assured is now fading away. A primary reason is the tighter evaluation of asylum cases. Thousands of Afghans entered the U.S. pursuing safety from persecution and conflict. While some were awarded protection, many applications were refused or left unresolved for years. Under existing policy, refused or expired asylum cases are no longer suspended or disregarded. They are being actively handled, often producing in deportation orders. Temporary protections are also under strain. Some Afghan nationals were permitted to stay in the U.S. under special programs or humanitarian classification because of conditions in their homeland. In 2026, these protections are being reconsidered, restricted, or permitted to lapse. When that occurs, individuals who obeyed the rules suddenly discover themselves without legal standing and at danger of removal. Security screening plays a pivotal role. Afghan nationals undergo some of the most thorough background investigations of any group. Anyone unable to clear these evaluations or whose files present unresolved questions can encounter deportation, even without criminal conduct. The bar for concern is low, and the ramifications are severe. Visa infractions add additional pressure. Some Afghans overstayed student or visitor visas. Others breached the conditions of admission by laboring without authorization. In today's enforcement atmosphere, these infractions are being pursued forcefully, regardless of personal situations or humanitarian considerations. Even individuals who assisted U.S. military or government operations are not excluded. Documentation gaps, stalled processing, or bureaucratic mistakes have pushed some former interpreters and support personnel into removal proceedings despite their contributions. The impact is heartbreaking. Families who thought they had discovered safety now exist with perpetual uncertainty. Children raised in the U.S. confront the prospect of being relocated to places they've never experienced. Futures are being reshaped overnight. In 2026, Afghan nationals without approved asylum, active legal standing, or complete documentation face considerable deportation risks as enforcement directives emphasize strict adherence over compassionate exceptions. And now we arrive at number 1. This is the country encountering the toughest enforcement of all. Number 1. China. In 2026, China sits at the epicenter of the most forceful immigration enforcement impacting any Asian country. Thousands of Chinese nationals throughout the United States are being subjected to heightened scrutiny, and the magnitude of enforcement is unlike anything witnessed before. At the heart of this initiative are geopolitical and national security frictions. China is regarded as a strategic competitor, and that dynamic is directly shaping immigration policy. Chinese nationals are now subject to more thorough background reviews, broadened monitoring, and swifter enforcement decisions. Applications that once proceeded routinely are now halted, examined, and in many instances refused or canceled. Espionage and intellectual property worries are fueling much of this enforcement. Students, researchers, and professionals employed in technology, engineering, and scientific disciplines are encountering elevated vetting. Even legitimate visa holders are experiencing abrupt cancellations if their professional or academic connections raise flags. Entire careers are being upended, sometimes overnight. Visa overstays remain a primary catalyst. Significant numbers of Chinese nationals arrive in the U.S. each year on student, tourist, or work visas. In 2026, overstays from China are among the top enforcement priorities. Once identified, cases advance quickly toward detention and deportation, regardless of how long somebody has resided in the country. Unauthorized employment is also under aggressive enforcement. Many Chinese immigrants labor in restaurants, construction, salons, and service industries without proper permits. With expanded workplace audits and inspections, entire neighborhoods are being impacted as arrests and removal proceedings climb steeply. Fraud-related issues further amplify enforcement. U.S. authorities have discovered cases involving falsified documents, arranged marriages, and fabricated asylum applications. While not characteristic of the whole community, these cases have prompted broader crackdowns that impact lawful applicants as well. Birth tourism probes have introduced another dimension. Officials are examining cases involving tourist visas utilized for childbirth in the U.S., resulting in visa refusals, cancellations, and deportation measures connected to previous travel even years afterward. Student visa cancellations are growing rapidly. Chinese students in specific disciplines are losing legal standing due to security evaluations, compelling many to depart the country despite adhering to visa regulations. Technology sector professionals face comparable risks as employment permits are reassessed. In 2026, Chinese nationals encounter the strictest immigration enforcement of any Asian group. Whether due to security vetting, visa infractions, employment concerns, or fraud probes, those without solid legal standing encounter the greatest deportation risks, making China the leading priority for removal operations. And now, the larger question. Do you believe these deportation measures are essential for enforcement, or are they pushing too far? Share your opinions in the comments. I read them, and I respond. Thanks for watching. If you found this analysis helpful, make sure you subscribe to this channel for more content and activate notifications so you don't miss what's upcoming.